Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Jason with Jadren Aquatics. Thanks for hanging out with me again. So today, I've been asked this question a lot lately. People are wanting to know more about the mechanics of my fish room and exactly how all the little things work, how I control the air conditioning, and what type of filtration am I using, what type of filtration am I not using, a bunch of different things like that. And I've got a bunch of different videos that deal with a whole lot of those different things. And I know I've got like over 250 videos now, so I know it's difficult sometimes finding things. So I thought I would try to make a comprehensive video that just deals with the mechanics of what makes my fish room go. So let's go ahead and let's walk around. Let me show you some of the things and see if I can't explain to you guys so you have a better idea of what it is that makes my fish room go. Okay, so first let's talk about the fish room itself, where it is. My fish room is in my garage. I have a standard 2-car garage, and so the wall that is on this side, this is just the standard wall that's already here. This is an internal wall that goes into the rooms. But this wall over here, this is a wall that I actually built. And the reason that I didn't use the outside wall is because my hot water heater is back behind this wall. So between this wall and the next wall, there is about a 3-foot gap. And then if you look in the back, I've got another wall built right here. Between this wall and the garage, there is about I think it's little less than 2 foot from that wall to the garage. Okay, so you guys got kind of an idea of the fish room now, and so now let's talk about heating and cooling. Currently I only have a heater in one tank. That's simply because I'm trying to keep that tank a little bit warmer than the rest of the tanks. Most of my tanks stay between probably 74 and 78 degrees. The tanks that are on top, obviously the heat rises, so the tanks that are on top are usually about 3 degrees warmer than the tanks that are on bottom. So all of my heating and my air conditioning is controlled right here. This is a portable AC and heating unit. This is a 12,000 BTU, and as you can see, it's filtered, or not filtered, but it's exhausted into the attic. Now, this thing does great at air conditioning, but it struggles with heating sometimes. So I also have an oil-filled space heater. That sometimes I'll swap these out when it starts getting too cold, just to make sure that I keep the room at the right temperature. I used to be a lot more worried about trying to keep the room like right at 78 degrees all the time. I'll let it sway more now. I don't worry so much about it. With having all of these tanks in here, it insulates the room better. These tanks hold in the heat or hold in that cool, so it's not very difficult to control the temperature in here, no matter what the temperature outside is. So again, I only run one heater in one tank. That's simply because I need that tank to be a little bit warmer. Right here I have a fan hanging from the ceiling. The reason I have this fan is because when I have the heater going, all the heat likes to stay up at the top of the room. So I'll turn this on while I have the heater going to help circulate it and help try to push some of the air back down to the bottom area. I was a little bit concerned when I opened up this newest section back here behind this stand if I was going to still be able to control the temperature in here, since I was adding another 300 square foot or whatever it was, but so far I haven't had any problems whatsoever. Granted, if you guys don't know, I live in Texas, so you know, it's typical we'll have 100-degree days, sometimes 60 days in a row in the summer, and then in the winter we don't get below freezing more than maybe 2 weeks total a year, if even that, and almost no snow. So heat is always the biggest problem in Texas. All right, so let's talk about filtration. In every single one of my tanks are sponges. The 40-gallon tanks have 2 sponges, the 10s only have 1, all of the 20s have 1. So every single one of them are air-powered sponges. 99.9% of them are Hydor 5s that I get from Gemco. And so if you look up at the top here, you can see this PVC piping that goes all the way around. This is 1.5-inch piping. This is a closed circuit for my air. The air currently is powered by 2 LPH 60s. These guys are both from Gemco. Used to have one, but one wasn't quite doing enough. Now I've got two, so right now it's overkill. But overkill is great because overkill always means that you can add more tanks. And Lord knows, I love nothing more than adding more tanks. And so, kind of the way that I designed it, I don't love it. I wish I would have used gang valves more. If you look up here, every single sponge has its own air hose that goes down, and these are metal fittings that are also from Gemco. You tap a hole and then you screw these in and they self-tap themselves in, and then they've got controllers where you can, you can let more air or less air in. But the problem with them being so high in the air, it's difficult to deal with. What I've started changing them is the way that I've done this newest stand. And if you'll see on this newest stand, each one of these new stands has a gang valve that has 4 on it that controls the 4 tanks here, and the 4 tanks here, and the 4 tanks here. So anytime I need to adjust air, I can simply come right here. That's a whole lot better. I wish I would have done that to the other tanks, but it's not really that big of a deal. So currently what I'm doing right now seems to be working really, really well. And so when I added on this extra section, I didn't have to do anything to the air. I just simply tapped into the air and just dropped the lines over here. So that made it very, very easy. As you can see, there's a lot more lines that are tapped in. And then right here, this device, this is currently completely shut off. This is to release pressure. If I've got, I'm pumping too much air into these things, I can simply just open that valve a little bit and let a little bit air out of here so we don't build up so much pressure. But currently that's not a problem. I originally put that on there because I needed it because I didn't have so many tanks. But now it is absolutely unneeded. Okay, so next thing, let's talk about lights. So every single light that I have in here are all Aquaneat lights. I'll try to link that video from above so you guys can see that, see where I get. These are all ones that I get off of eBay. These things are all LEDs. They use very little wattage. Since I'm out here in the garage, currently I only have 2 breakers that are out here. One of them is pretty much for the air conditioner alone, and the other one is for everything else. And it's pushing its limit. I've got a friend that's supposed to come over anytime, any day now, that's supposed to help me to add another breaker to the system. So I have to watch very carefully the amount of wattage that I'm consuming to make sure I don't throw that 15 amp breaker. All right, as far as stands go, every stand that's in here has been custom built by me. No, I'm not a woodworker. No, I don't really know a lot what I'm doing. I've just built a lot of stands and I've kind of gotten pretty good at it, at least the way that I do it. I've never made a video on it because I know there's going to be people out there that work with wood and stuff. They're going to say, "Oh my gosh, Jason, you're doing this totally the wrong way. You need to be cutting these joints in here," and so on and so forth. But I've had great luck, never had any problems with any of mine. So that's the majority of these stands here. This stand right here is still one that's left over from when I originally set this thing up, where I use cinder blocks. Cinder blocks are an incredibly easy way to get your tanks up and going, but they are an incredible waste of space because of the fact that, I'm dealing with this fish room where I only have so much room to put stuff, so every square inch is highly critical to me. So to be able to use one of these cinder blocks here and cinder blocks there, they take up a lot of room. So this is probably going to be something I'll end up redoing to gain a little bit more tank space. And then the other stand that I have that I did not build is this metal stand here. This is I think it's an Edsel, I think is the brand of it. The only reason that I have this is because I used to have chameleons before this years ago, and I used this for my chameleons, and so it was very easy just to paint this thing black and use it again. These things are designed to hold a lot more weight than is up here, but I just don't ever trust them. That's one of the reasons that I overbuild all of my stands just for safety purposes. So these look like they belong, but actually these are pieces that I've actually notched out of 2x4s just to give it extra support. I have that in the middle of all of these stands, again, to give it that extra support so I don't have to worry about these things bending or crashing, or just, my granddaughter's out here a lot and I don't want anything out here to be unsafe, so I try to be as careful as I possibly can. Plus I obviously don't want it crashing down on me either. Let's talk about water. So I'm out here in the garage, I have no water and I have no drainage system, and it would cost thousands of dollars to have a plumber come out here and do it, and I'm just not willing to spend the money. So what I do currently is this door right here, this goes to the washer and dryer, so I just tap into that line. So during the day when I'm out here, I always leave this door open. That helps get some of the humidity that's out of here. So that thing will stay open hours at a time. So I use one of these type of hoses. It's currently going right now, but this is one of those expandable hoses. So it's real easy just to wrap this thing up and put it over the dryer. And then when I need it again, it's just real easy to pull it in here and use it. And so that's how I pump all the water into here. So that part is not automated. I have to do that myself. And so let's talk about the water first for the shrimp. That's what's currently going right now. It's pumping into this line and going through this 1/4 inch water line and then coming in here into the RODI unit. And this water is cleaning this water down to 0 TDS, and then that is putting the clean water into this bucket currently. This is a 40-gallon bucket. I don't have to do a lot of water changes and stuff with the shrimp, so I don't really have that much of an automated system because I don't really need it, but I'm currently setting up a bunch of new tanks, so I'm having to make a lot of water. Okay, so the next thing is, let's talk about the water that I use for the fish tank, since that is on a automatic drip system. So that's what this PVC, this 3/4 inch PVC line is right here. So I just screw the water into this piece right here, turn the water on, this line runs all the way into the back here. And runs into this 275-gallon tote. Not only does that water go in there, but right now, as I'm using the RO unit, you guys may know that RO unit, I think, produces like 7 times more wastewater than it does good water. So all of that wastewater that I have is also going into this 275-gallon tote. And so this thing I currently have to fill about every 2 to 3 days from all the water changes, automatic water changes that I do. So let's talk about the automatic water change system. So first of all, the pump that I use. So I just have a simple diaphragm pump. I'll try to link that video above so you guys can see more about this pump. This pump is set up on a timer. I think it goes off about 7 or 8 times a day for about 20 minutes. What it does is it pumps water up from the tote, and the reason that I use this type of pump, because this pump has no problem pulling water up, and it has no water pushing water up. And the greatest thing about it is that it can run dry, because a lot of times this thing runs empty and this thing runs dry and it causes no problems to the pump, whereas most pumps cannot run dry. So this thing has got a 1/4 inch water line, and so when it pushes the water out, it pushes it up into this system right here. You guys can see there's a bunch of T's all hooked together. Each one of those T's, or the elbow, each goes to a different set of tanks. Again, this is all using this 1/4 inch water line like you would find on your ice maker. And so each one of these runs to every single one of my non-shrimp tanks. And then let's see if we can't get a shot of it. Let's look at this one down here. Okay, so this is for a 40-gallon one. So this one comes in here. This one, I don't mean to have it submerged like this. This is just currently temporary, but so that you can get an idea. And so this one comes into a T here, and then on the end of it there are two 2-gallon per hour drippers. And so when this thing's going, this thing's putting out 4 gallons per hour into this tank. And on the 10-gallon tanks I got 1 gallon per hour. The 20 gallons of tanks I have 1 2-gallon per hour. That way they're all producing the same percentage. And so again, that goes off 6 or 7 times a day. I think the tanks probably get about a 30% or so water change a day. Well, let's use this one as an example. Okay, so every one of my tanks that are non-shrimp tanks are drilled, and they have a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch threaded bulkhead in them. And then that bulkhead has a 1/4 inch elbow, and that 1/4 inch elbow just opens up to the top. It's drilled just so that it keeps the water level, you know, just barely above this black line. So as it's pumping that water in there, it's pumping the water into this side, and then the excess water overflows into this side and overflows, and then it goes into the drain pipe. So let's kind of look at the drain pipe system. Okay, so if you look at that one right there, you can see that this drain pipe goes to all 3 of those 40 gallons. You can see up there where it overflows and then goes down and connects with that one and connects with that one, and then hits some 45s here, and then goes into this 2-inch drain pipe. This 2-inch drain pipe goes all the way down. You'll see an elbow there. It turns, and then it comes down here, and then it goes into this 27-gallon container. Okay, so this 27-gallon container is where all the excess water is coming from. From this side of the fish room, it's coming in here. From that side of the fish room, it's coming in there. And from the right side of the fish room, it's coming in through this small one here. All of them are drilled into here. And the way that I get rid of the water now is I have to use a sump pump. The sump pump is triggered by when the water level reaches a certain height. It then turns that pump on and begins to pump that water out. That's what this black hose is right here. This black hose goes out through the wall here, and I have set up a makeshift sprinkler system. So whenever this pumps that water out, it pumps it up through a sprinkler system and waters my backyard, which sounds all fine and dandy and like, oh, what a great thing. But the problem is, as you can see in here, there's duckweed galore, there's snails, there's everything else. So this thing constantly gets clogged. Those sprinkler heads that I have out there, I have to take them apart all the time and clean them, and you would not believe how much junk is in them. So that idea doesn't work as great as I would hope it would, but I do have a fail-safe on it. You can't really see it, but down there at the bottom there's a hole drilled back there that has a 1/2 inch hose that goes out and goes through the wall and then goes out in the garage and actually goes through the garage. And so if this thing gets too full, that water will automatically release into the front yard, run down my driveway and into my yard and somewhat water it. All right, let's talk about the last thing, and that would be the lids that I use for my tank. I'll link that video above on how you can DIY your own lids. When you have this many tanks, lids get very, very expensive, and so these are the lids that I make. This is basically, it's just a greenhouse material that they have that has these kind of holes all in it. And this is one of the newer ones that I've made where I've actually taped up the edges, because since these are holes in here, you'll get a lot of buildup of algae and stuff that's in here. I've got some where I've actually, like this one right here, where I actually have put hinges on it. I don't have hinges on them all, and then I've just cut the notches out for the back, and then I just use these simple command hooks as the hook to open these things up. Alright, so there you go. There is the mechanics of how my fish room works. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I hope you understand a little bit better. I hope maybe you've gotten some ideas from it so you can make your life a little bit easier when you are designing your fish room, or maybe you'll be able to use some of these ideas if you've just got 1 or 2 tanks. Who knows? But be sure, if you've got a question or a comment, that you leave that down below. Love to be able to help you guys out. If you got any type of questions, let me know. I'm obviously not an expert at this, but I have learned a lot of life lessons as I have worked in my fish room. So I love to be able to try to keep you guys from keeping the mistakes, from making the mistakes that I've made. So thanks again, guys, and God bless.